All right, BG, very nice to have you here.
I'm happy to be here.
And we'll be talking about inbound lead generation through LinkedIn and how that compares to other channels. I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Happy to take it away. Um, I started out bootstrapped with a couple of SaaS products. And like a lot of people who get into the B2B SaaS space, I'm a developer who had insight about a specific problem. And that's how we get started. Now, this was 2 years ago. And essentially, the mistake that I had done was I had discounted the fact that distribution of SaaS is much difficult than what it used to be. Small segue here. I'm writing an article that says that compares Rockefeller to The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. So Rockefeller pretty much had a monopoly in the US before all these companies could had those specific laws to not compete in that specific manner. And if you look at what the Pennsylvania Train Company did, it essentially handled most of the distribution for Standard Oil, which was Rockefeller's company. And at one point, they got too greedy and they said, let's start doing it ourselves. And they tried to cut ties. And long story short, Rockefeller still owned 87% of distribution. And the Pennsylvania train station company ended up going bankrupt. Um, so this is one part of the story. And if you look at The Rock, who's a celebrity right now, he approached a tequila company and he said, I'm going to be the face of your company. Why don't you give me amount XYZ? And essentially, the company said, no, we don't think this brand deal is going to accelerate our sales that much. So The Rock went ahead and started his own company from scratch, and it was valued at $1 billion overnight.
Hmm.
So I bring up this story because 100 years ago, anything that you produce was probably fundamentally scarce. Oil is fundamentally scarce resource,
Mhm.
and if someone wanted to, the barrier to entry of creating a company, even if you're a big monopoly, was very tough. And if you had enough money, enough capital, if you just controlled the production, you could control distribution, and that's how the Rockefeller won over the train company. But today, everything that we produce, especially in the world of software, it's so similar to each other. Let's take Warmly, for example, or any specific software that you use. There's not a lot of patents or intellectual data that you can proprietarily say that nobody else can duplicate or replicate. And that brings us to the topic that I want to talk about, which is related to lead generation. If all the software is able to do the exact same functions, what is the incentive to the user to pick one over the other? Now we have enough data from all these different companies that um, people don't like going through sales channels. 10 years ago, having a pushy salesman in one company was an automatic key to buying over your competitors' customers. But now people don't want that. They want everything on the website. So how do you actually figure to stand out? And here is my theory, and here is what's going to happen to most software companies in the future. You take a look at companies like Lemlist, you take a look at companies like Instantly, and pretty much any company that has an active community around LinkedIn or Facebook. Essentially, what these companies are doing is they are educating their audience on how to solve the specific problem, whether it be a function of HR, marketing, technical, product, whatever it is. And a part of that solution is going to require their specific tool or service, but that's not the only thing that they're concerned about. If I'm selling a HR tech tool, I'm educating all the recruiters on how to hire better talent. And of course, not every single post or every single strategy is going to involve a better technical solution. Um, this is sort of the bias that a lot of software companies have, that they think that lead generation is just not about educating the audience on how to achieve the maximum results. It is more along the lines of exhibiting their business expertise. What do I mean by that? If you are the founder of a HR tech company, um, if you go ahead and say one of your business goals was to get 70% of people spend over an hour in your tool, if you go ahead and tell that um, tell all your customers that more than 70% of your users are spending 1 hour in my software tool, that means nothing to those businesses who you're attracting as leads. What they really care about is how good are the quality of their files. If you're a security company, they don't really care about how well your security program is working, because the efficiency of that is only known when there is a possible attack. So it's like kind of like a bet you win, you hope you don't lose. So these are some of the companies that we work with, but irrespective of what B2B company that I've worked with in the past, the traditional methods of lead generation, like trying to stand out with patents, no longer work. The traditional method of having pushy salesmen no longer works, because people are not picking up your calls, people are not replying to your emails, and these platforms like LinkedIn and Gmail are constantly implementing features to gatekeep yourself. Ads, I don't even have to talk about ads, because every single day there is so much gatekeeping around what sort of filters that you can use on these ad platforms, as well as how you can target these specific people. We took a look at the Apple update, we took a look at all the GDPR rules that are being updated. So as a company, not irrespective of your B2C or B2B, how do you actually go ahead and capture the audience? It seems to be clear that the best way to capture them right now is to educate them on what works for their specific business goals, and slowly pitching in your product on where that fits in that specific solution stack. So that's how it traditionally differs as opposed to any other form of meeting. I believe that any B2B company, there are only 5 methods of traditional lead generation. First, you have your outbound, which we already talked about. Second, you have your content, which is what I'm advocating. Third, you have SEO. And again, SEO is partly being impacted by generative AI. And SEO is unfortunately one of those things where winner takes it all. If you look at companies like Zapier and HubSpot, they have over 10,000 articles. Now, if you're just starting a SaaS company, to beat them in their own game, you cannot go the SEO route, because they have better people than you, they have more people than you, and their domain age, their links are just much bigger and outdated. So it's not low barrier to entry. And any SEO agency that you work with, you pretty much see no ROI for 6 months, right? So the fourth thing is ads. Again, if you're starting out, it can be very costly to run ads, as well as it takes a long time to reach that place where you know your filters, as well as the gatekeeping by these platforms. So apart from that, you have your one-time hits like going to events, building a community, launching on Product Hunt, launching on Hacker News, but those are not activities that you can hire people for and do every single day. So if you look at the things that are actually working right now, it's
Mhm.
building a strong group of advocates around the specific solution that you're forming, as well as figuring out how to help people get those specific goals. That should be your number one reason. So educating your ICP on what they want as opposed to what you think they want. And this has worked for us in every single type of company that we work. We work with a security company, and security contracts are usually 3 to 5 years long. So when your customer, and 70% of your customers are already locked into a 3 to 5 year contract, they are not actively searching for a solution on SEO. The ads are not attractive enough to go ahead and actually click on it or change a solution overnight. Um, People are going to events, but they're probably not going to try your specific tool. But if you constantly talk about how your features are impacting the security of that specific company, and you constantly give away resources like checklists, security reports of how to evaluate their company against security, when the time comes to renew, who's the first person on their specific mind? It's always going to be you. And comparing this channel to every other means of medium is lower cost, easier to stand out, because most of the people are not doing this. Most of the people want quick wins, and they resort to mediums like ads as well as out. It takes a long time to build a community. It takes a lot of time to create these resources that are very valuable to your specific ICP. But once you figure that out, the to-go resource of whatever solution that you're selling is actually you. And I don't know how many people know this, but HubSpot actually coined the term inbound. And HubSpot is the king of inbound. They have so many free tools that irrespective of whether or not you're in marketing, you will know that logo. And when you are looking for a CRM, That's the first thing you think.
Amazing. That's really helpful here. So, very curious about this. What are some things that you
Hey, Alan,
tactically
I
do?
think you're on mute.
Sorry. Sorry, I had to mute myself because there's some like cleaning outside. But
Okay,
what are some tactical things that someone can do to get started with this process of how, understanding what the ICP actually wants? And then how do you deliver that?
awesome. So the first part of figuring out your ICP, and this is the easiest hack I've always found, is that figure out an alternative to your specific product or a contemporary that might have a very similar shared ICP. So a lot of people who use Notion also use Airtable. A lot of people who use Notion also use Google Sheets. A lot of people who use Notion also use Coda. All right. Go ahead to G2, read every single review by these people on that specific website, as well as go to these specific websites and go to their case studies and testimonials section. Once you figure that out, just look them up on LinkedIn. You will get their job title, their company size, when they left that review, which is also typical because people adopt a solution when they're at five for 50 employees, and then you're seeing that at 2000 employees it's not the same recipe. So forming an ICP is essentially just a hypothesis. You should not just stick yourself to one set of customers in the beginning, and try to shoot for as wide as possible. But the best things that you cannot go wrong with is always the job title. And here's another hack that always works. Go ahead and search for alternatives of your specific tool stack, or the key metric that you're solving using your specific tool. So let's take Warmly, for example. Increase conversion rate, that is already on your landing page. So Google that among job posts and figure out what job titles are linked to that specific metric, and use that in your outreach messages is one hack. But figuring out job titles is like removing half of the work. So, for example, in LinkedIn, you can't really filter out a bunch of SaaS companies. But what you can do is you can put product marketing manager, which often tends to be a job role that is only in SaaS companies, or chief product officer or chief growth officer, which are mostly only in SaaS companies if you filter by the industry of software development. So once you figure the job titles out, go ahead and read about. So here's how we do. Essentially, your LinkedIn strategy should have three types of people. First type of people are thought leaders. They have somewhere between 60,000 all the way up to 150K followers on LinkedIn, and they are talking about specific hashtags. So once you figure out one guy who is popular and who talks about that specific post, you will see people also viewed in the left side, right side, as well as the bottom when you click on the follow button. These people tend to be mapped out really well by the algorithm, especially if they have over 100K followers. So once you figure that out, create a list of 30 thought leaders. Once you're able to create a list of 30 thought leaders, create a list of engagement people, because most of the people who want to buy from you don't know about you. And even if they do know about you, they're hesitant to actually go ahead and like. I know a lot of people who have given me more than $10,000, $20,000, who have never liked one single LinkedIn post of mine. But if you just keep commenting on the thought leaders posts, you will never be able to reach these people who are your ideal customers. So you need a bunch of people who are your fans, who will promote that specific post, who have the same amount of energy about that specific problem. And this is actually the CPO of Intercom's framework around picking the right SaaS idea, is to go ahead and look how many people are crazy about solving that specific problem, and make them, add them to your connection list, right? Write personalized requests, comment on every single post of them. We use a tool called Breakcold for this. It's amazing. And once you're able to figure that out, then start sending requests to your ICP, as in companies that you want to work with. Or don't go with the mindset of just selling to them, but rather with the mindset of helping them, and that will automatically make them amplify your posts, which will identify your ICP for yourself. So that is the strategy behind adding people to it. Now let's talk about creating content. Go ahead and filter those thought leaders posts by the top 5 topics, as well as the top 5 most liked posts, most shared. So in some industries, it's something like hiring. In some industries, it's more about explaining how an exploit works. In some industries, it's about sharing details about the funding waves that happen within startups. Once you're able to figure out those subtopics, discard the seasonal topics and create evergreen content. And this is really important because a lot of people resort to something that can gets likes today in LinkedIn, but it's not something where people come to your profile and they see all the posts are so relevant that they click on the bell icon, they start following. You should not be a one-time hit or a one-time wonder. So it's really important to make sure you figure out what are the topic ideas they care about, and this can also be from your contemporaries. So, for example, I'm a LinkedIn lead generation agency or a LinkedIn post writing agency. Now, if you look at things that people might search for on Google, is like how do you get more impressions on your LinkedIn post? What is a good number of impressions to have on LinkedIn? This might be by someone who's just starting out. If you look at the companies that are actually posting about it, it's by tools that have something to sell on top of LinkedIn. So if you look at Lead Delta or Inlytics or Taplio, they have a lot of content about it. So you guys pretty much have the same ideal customer profile, but you have different offerings, which is the best type of people to collaborate with. So go ahead and interact with them, create partnerships with them, create affiliate programs with them. But more importantly, figure out what topic ideas that they're talking about and what you can add up on top of it. So the commenting strategy also matters really much. And once you figure these out, you really need a good profile page where your what you need to do is make sure that your profile headline is really clear and your profile cover has a one line understanding of what your offer is. A lot of people make it extremely complicated. Don't look at a lot of use cases that your product solves or a service solves. Try to have one specific thing that you are the best at solving and have that as a part of the headline. Now we gave three links, one in the headline, one with the profile cover, as well as one in the about section. 30% of people book calls from the about section. More than 60% actually use the one in the cover picture. So a lot of people don't tend to read text, but then in the cover picture, the font size tends to be higher because it's designed on something like Canva or Figma, and that tends to convert much better. But the important thing that we figured out is thanks to reducing attention spans, you need to be really precise about what your problem website solves or whatever your service or offer is, and have those specific links. Without spending much of my energy, I should be able to understand what you have to offer. Once these three things are set up, which is like your network, your content, as well as your ICP and your specific profile, you'll start booking meetings more than any other form sorts of mediums that we've spoken about. Again, my experience is a lot with mid market as well as early stage startups that don't have a lot of capital to pump in right away, but they have products and services that can disrupt the market in a substantial way. And any other method is not going to be as stable to generate inbound leads, because especially when you have a new product, a lot of it is just placing a bet on how well you can deliver on a specific solution. Take your case, for example, Albacross probably came 2 3 years ago, but when I see the YC badge, I have you have essentially inherited authority from someone I already know. So it's an association in my head that this founder knows what he's doing and he's going to be able to deliver, right? And that trust is what an early stage startup always needs, and you can deliver that only if you constantly have content. And not only that, like I previously said, the amount of closes that you can make from inbound content is substantially higher, 6x higher, according to a study done at MIT, as compared to outbound leads, especially in the B2B industry. And this was done on LinkedIn. So that's as data as it gets, and this is pretty much the strategy.
That's amazing strategy. I love what you said about making your LinkedIn page basically your landing page.
Exactly.
It's like the first point of contact, and then from there they get to your landing page and see what you're about. And by that point, they're already familiar with your brand, your offering. The key piece that I'm definitely going to take away from this is optimizing my title, not a title, but the header tag. Yeah.
Yeah, the head attack. And one more thing I'd like to really add in here is that I think I'm not sure if it was Bloomberg or Gartner. I think it was Gartner. They did a study on how many exposures it takes for a brand to buy from another brand. So the average number of times is 19. If you run ad campaigns or even retargeted ads or SEO, there's a good chance that people just interact with you once and then they forget that you exist. So when they actually have a dying problem, they're not going to come to you first. They're going to restart their specific search. But with content, essentially what you're doing is you're adding the people to your specific network on whatever solution that you're trying to solve, and you keep posting about it every single day. So when they do have that problem, you're the first person that comes to their mind because they've already had more than 19 exposures.
Right.
And and one thing that is amazing about this whole process is whenever something gets delayed, the people feel guilty for interacting with your post without replying to your sales reps. So they actually go ahead and say that, listen, we have a new round coming in February and we're going to circle back then. So they're not keeping you in the dark because they are still active in your social media and they want to get use of your specific resources. But as compare this to specific company that has only an outbound process, your sales reps are going to be ghosted completely and they are not going to get a reason why your specific offer is not working with them. So that feedback can really help. If it's the pricing problem, you can fix that and increase your close rate and work on a volume game instead of a margin game. So those sort of strategies and feedback you're able to get because people are constantly taking use of your specific content as well as the community that you build. So that is something that made me really pursue this much rush.
Makes a ton of sense. Maybe you're right. Not enough people do it because the quick way is ads and outreach. So, but it's worth the investment. Maybe one last question, which is, what's the breakdown of how often people should be posting and commenting a day, percentage wise, time, hours?
Yeah.
Who should be doing it?
So
Yeah.
we recommend at least 3 times a week minimum to get started. So the type of three there are only 3 types of content that really works well on LinkedIn nowadays. First is a carousel type LinkedIn, which gets the maximum number of impressions, and that tends to be either a listicle. So you're talking about like the maximum number of tools available in that specific sector, or like top people to follow in that specific sector. Second type of carousel is like anything that's a technical how-to. So if you have a tool of some sort, you can go ahead and post a step-by-step instruction. So there's a person, uh, there's a lot of tools like Finding Mail is one of them, where they're educating the audience on how to actually technically save
Mhm.
these filters on sales now as well as export it. So carousels is one wall of text that works. Second thing is building that personal brand really amplifies the content that you have. So um, a lot of growth on LinkedIn happens on top of the funnel content. So if you have a B2B SaaS product that solves a very niche problem, even if people want to support you, they might not be able to understand the metrics that you're talking about. So for that, you still need to capture that part of the audience, and you can post a picture of yourself and connect that image to your journey of building that specific company startup. That tends to perform really well, and it just puts a face behind your specific profile, and they don't think you're robotic, just talking about your
Mhm.
specific tool, all the specific. And third thing is text posts that are with a proper hook on a, a single thing that you would like to inform your audience about. So, for example, as a lead identification software, you can figure out that probably it takes uh, it takes 20% effort to convince a lead who has already visited your website as opposed to someone who has never visited your website. So those sort of education
Mhm.
posts or like industry wide standards as a text post really performs well. And my favorite of the all is actually polls. So if you use LinkedIn polls, it
Mhm.
takes the least number of minutes to our effort to get
Yeah.
started with LinkedIn polls.
Yeah.
But every every answer, every time someone votes on a poll, it's counted as engagement. So
Mhm.
you can boost your engagement. Even though the impressions are low, you can boost your number of engagements with a weekly LinkedIn poll. So it's best to just create 3 pieces of content to get started. We post every single day, or you can just leave it to the pros and just hire us. And that's how you essentially get started with LinkedIn posting. For comments, we recommend you leave at least 10 comments every day, but then form a list of people that you want to comment with. Make sure some of them are in a extremely different follower cycle. So if you are at 10,000 followers, make sure you're interacting with people who are at the same level, people who are at 60,000 followers. That is where you'll be getting new fans, as well as people who are at 1,000 followers who are commenting on all of your profiles. That needs to be
Mhm.
layered and structured.
And how much time do you think people should be spending on LinkedIn today?
I spend more than 6 hours on LinkedIn every day, but I would recommend you do at least 2 hours of LinkedIn, and it's gonna be easily booking you more than 4 or 5 calls a week if you do
Mhm.
that properly for 3 months. So it's worth it more than any other channel that you might want to hang out on. Essentially because it's giving you feedback on every single interaction that you do, unlike any other platforms. If you write SEO content, 6 months later, someone visits the blog, they get to know whether or not the solution is working. If you're doing outbound email, people don't respond right away. It takes 3 to 4 follow-ups. If you're doing ads, again, like people click, but they don't buy, you don't really know why they're not buying. But with content, you kind of guess what's the specific theme around it, and you can basically make people say, put your money where the mouth is because you commented that this is actually a good idea. So that's something that everyone should be doing.
Well, this was an extremely insightful, actionable, tactical session with BJ. If you can give a shout out to your company where people can find you and find out more about what you guys do, that'd be great.
Yeah. So So we are at inboxpiratesconsulting.com. If you can't find that, you can just Google go for BG, and that's my handle in every single social media platform. We help any sort of B2B company crack their LinkedIn demand generation as well as drive inbound leads. This also helps you to increase your close rates, especially if you're doing outbound. And we help make sure we execute really good ABM campaigns. So if you have a specific set of accounts that you want to go after and target them on LinkedIn, which is the best platform to actually do this, come ahead with us and we can help.